A common theme we tend to see in backswings is that the centre of the pelvis, or the 3D origin of the pelvis from above, from say a bird's eye view, drifts towards the golf ball, so that it early extends in the backswing. Now most people think this is solely a downswing problem because they get to an impact position where the pelvis is thrust towards the golf ball, the weight's all in the toes and the pressure's through the toes. But what we tend to see is it's normally set up either via bad posture or bad setup, and then just a poor concept of how the pelvis should work. So initially what we are looking for is the centre of the pelvis or the hip bones to be positioned over the top of the ankle bones. This gives us very good posture, gives us good balance and good weight distribution, so that as we start to pivot and move the club behind us, we're nice and centred with our balance points, we're nice and centred with our turns. If the pelvis is sat too far behind or too far in front of our ankles, that can then throw us off balance as we move the club behind us, as the body will look to counterbalance the weight of the club. Now, the other concept that we tend to see is, as we're rotating, with the amateur golfers, they tend to feel like they need to really over-rotate the pelvis. Now, what that does, that puts a focal point on the left hip moving forwards, as opposed to the right hip moving backwards. Now, what we tend to see with the better player is the right hip moves backwards just as much as the left hip moves forwards. And in the amateur, the left hip swings really out in front, where the right hip stays very passive and very static. So this gives them a false look of rotation, but also positions the centre of the pelvis significantly closer to the golf ball. What it also does is it positions the left knee well outside of the left toe or the foot line, which again makes the downswing much harder to orientate and then get back on track and back on plane on the way down. So as you can see from our gears database, we've got the access to quite a few tour professionals and really elite players. We are capable of having a look at their golf swing from sort of a bird's eye view from above, and then putting sort of a bone wire frame in. Now what we tend to see here is that symmetry with the left hip moving forward, the right hip moving backwards, whereas the typical amateur, like I said earlier, they just swing that left hip way out in front of them to try and max out as much rotation as they can. But this is massively to the detriment of then the orientation, how this pelvis is positioned throughout the rest of the backswing. So the rest of the action is just a series of manipulations and compensations due to them getting the pelvis, which is a real central point of our golf swing, out of position early.